Herself for 5 minutes of questioning. Mr. Owens, who are the coal plant's customers?
For the coal plant customers, the energy from the coal plants benefit all Puerto Ricans. It's integrated into our overall grid. It's a low-cost energy source. It's a reliable energy source. And the customers, the consumers of Puerto Rico benefit from a lower cost source of energy. They benefit from a continuous source of energy. So all customers of Puerto Rico benefit.
Okay, so the people of Puerto Rico broadly benefit from having access to electricity. And it's a point Mr. Epstein has made, that electricity is beneficial to people and to human life. Now, but I want to ask, who, just map this out a little bit, because there's a lot of acronyms here. Who runs the plant that we're talking about today, this coal ash plant? Who runs it?
This is owned by AES. We have a contract with AES, and we purchase the energy from that coal-fired plant, and it feeds into our overall electricity grid. The plant is owned by AES.
Okay, so they own it or they run it? I just want to be clear.
They own the plant.
AES owns the plant. Okay, and then who runs the grid?
Today, LUMA runs the grid. Prior to June the 1st, PREPA ran the grid. But LUMA has a 15-year operating and maintenance agreement in order to run the grid, in order to maintain the grid, and in order to enhance the grid.
Okay, and then you are here today on behalf of PREPA. And what is your relationship with LUMA?
We are the owners of the grid. LUMA is an operator of the grid. We need to make sure for the citizens of Puerto Rico that the grid is well maintained and the grid is well operated. So we have oversight responsibilities.
Wonderful. And then PREPA has to get major decisions approved by some other regulators, including FCOB, which is on the fiscal side, and then the energy regulator, PREB. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so here we're trying to map out kind of who's in charge here, all right? And you're here today on behalf of PREPA. So I have a question. Can PREPA unilaterally close this coal ash plant without sign-off?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. Absolutely not. We are subject to the FOMB. We're subject to the PREB. We're subject to Puerto Rican law. So we do not have the authority to shut down the plant. Absolutely not.
So you're saying PREPA would have to go up here and, so that's a bad arrow. Let me just fix that. You would have to go up here and you would be subject to law. If you decided to close the plant, could you simply direct LUMA to shut it down?
We can't shut down the plant. We can't direct LUMA to do anything. We have to comply with the law. Okay, and those agencies, I'm sorry.
So no, Mr. Owens, this is very, very helpful. And I want the committee and the American people to understand that. You have kindly come before the committee and you are helping us understand who has responsibility for this coal ash plant. So I just want to make sure I understood what you said. LUMA must be part of the decision to close this plant.
LUMA must comply with the Integrated Resource Plan, which is approved by the PREB, which is our regulator. LUMA cannot do anything on its own. LUMA has to comply with the law.
Okay,
LUMA's got
so
to comply
LUMA
with the
can't
regulator.
act alone, but I wanted to ask the reverse question.
Yes.
Can one of these entities, including you, decide to shut this plant down without LUMA's participation or consent or being part of the process?
LUMA is a part of the process because they operate the grid.
So what I'm driving at here, Mr. Owens, is we need LUMA to be here because they are part of the conversation. And as you know, we invited LUMA to testify because they're part of this conversation. They are part of this process. They agreed to testify. And then at the 11th hour, LUMA notified the committee that they would not be attending this hearing. And I just want to make sure the American people know what LUMA said. LUMA's Senior Director of Government Affairs said, quote, LUMA just doesn't have a role that is relevant to this hearing on this coal ash plant. But you have just explained to us, I believe correctly, that LUMA must be part of this decision-making process. It was LUMA's decision to commit to and then to withdraw from being present at this hearing. But it is my decision as chair of this subcommittee whether to pursue additional investigations. LUMA may not be here today, but they must answer to the American people. It was a mistake for them not to participate, but I am going to give them ample opportunity to rectify that mistake and to come answer questions that this committee has about the coal ash plant and its effect on the well-being of the people of Puerto Rico. With that, I yield back. I believe that concludes our hearing. There are no further witnesses at this time, no further members at this time. And so before we do officially wrap up, I want to take the opportunity to invite our witnesses to share any additional thoughts on the issues that we have discussed today. We're going to go in the same order that we went in as people offered their testimony. So we'll start with Mr. Colon. If there's anything else that you want to share that you think this committee or the American people need to know, you're welcome to share it at this time.
Señor Colón, si hay algo que usted quiera compartir con nosotros que cree que el pueblo estadounidense o este comité debería saber, por favor, adelante.
Lo último pues que me gustaría a mí sería que ustedes pudieran analizar la situación que estamos viviendo nosotros los guayameses y parte acá, y que pudieran hacer un análisis donde podemos determinar y que la fábrica se cierre y que nosotros podemos vivir, tener una calidad de vida mejor de la que tenemos ahora en el momento.
I would like you to analyze the situation that we're living here in Guayama, conduct the necessary tests, and improve the life conditions. Thank you so much.
We can't hear you. Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you. I want to say thank you for sharing that, and thank you to our interpreter for her work today and making sure that we can all understand and hear from all of our witnesses. Mr. Owens, any final remarks you'd like to make here?